Sadnam, hello, yogis and yoginis, welcome back. Hello, Willie, Sadnam, how are you doing? Good to see you. We are back. We are back after the holidays into regular streaming mode. We are back into Sangat consciousness. I hope you're doing well. Please let me know how are things going after the holidays, if you had any holidays. We have an open day, a free day today. We don't have anything planned for today. I thought maybe we could explore some phrases from maybe Kabir. Maybe we could explore something today, or maybe we could just meditate. Sat Kriya, Saddam, hello, nice to see you. Do we know each other? I wonder. With such a name, Sat Kriya, I wonder if we have met in the Kundalini yoga world before. Maybe we have. How are you doing? Do you practice Satkriya a lot? Satkriya is an actual practice from Kundalini Yoga, where we are sitting on the heels and then lifting the arms and chanting Satnam with the movement of the navel. That's a very interesting practice by itself. But it's interesting. In Kundalini Yoga, we call Kriyas to something that is not exactly the same in other yogas. Sometimes they may call Kriya something else, so it's good to make the differentiation. But yeah, good to see you. Please, everyone, this is an open space today. We don't have anything planned for today. If there is something that you would like to explore, let me know and we can talk about it together. But yeah, it's an open day. So we have been going on with the course on the mind. Is going really well. We are approaching the end of it. Approaching the end means maybe there's 2 or 3 more parts, I guess, but I never really know exactly how much are we gonna introduce, because things evolve as I am covering them. But yeah, it's going really well. Now we reach the point where we explain the manas, buddhi, ahankar, chitta, and yes, we are. That was one of the key points that was most difficult to understand, the whole involvement of the mind. So, Satkriya, we know each other for a long time. All right, maybe we know each other forever, right? Are you using like, this is metaphorical speaking, right? I mean metaphorical, not metaphorical, but I don't know how to say it. Like in abstract terms, in cosmic terms, let's say we know each other forever, right? Sat Kriya, the Kriya of the truth. Very good. So I was wondering what we would talk about today, or what would we do, what practice would we do. Yesterday I felt like today we would be meditating quite a bit. And this morning I felt like maybe we could read some Kabir. But I'm not sure what could we read from Kabir. So let me see. Maybe I have a text here which I prepared, and maybe it would be nice to read it. Maybe we can read Kabir talking about the mind, and maybe even buddhi. That could be nice. Almost 18 years? Oh. So we do know then. I cannot see your picture very well. I only see a very small in the icon. But then good to see you. Even though I'm not sure who you are, but maybe you can refresh my memory. Maybe 18 years. That's probably maybe some festival. Maybe. So how about we can read that text and then maybe we can meditate or something. Let's see if I can open it here in the screen. Okay. That's. I need to check how to do that. Yes, I want to do that text. Like this. Oh, it works. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm still figuring out how streaming works. You can see that I'm still technical issues. Yeah, but it's working today. Today is working. I got it. So let me remove this. Let's make this like that, and maybe like this. Yeah, that works better. So I selected a few texts when I was preparing the topic about the mind, You may see that this is page 183. And I have a little text of 300 pages that I prepared compiling resources on the mind. So this is good to give you a perspective of how much work I put into preparing this course that we are doing right now. I researched anywhere I could find the word manas, buddhi, ahankar, chitta in texts from Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita, looking in Sanskrit dictionaries, Gurmukhi dictionaries, looking at the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, and talks from Yogi Bhajan, Shivananda, and Vivekananda, other teachers. So you can imagine, just by what I said, the compilation is huge, and trying to understand the different aspects of consciousness and mind. And if I did all this, is because I didn't know. I was very confused. Now I feel like I'm getting the hang of it, but there's still, the mind is so complex. I believe I even read once somewhere that how can the mind understand itself? It's just an impossibility, right? Mind is something, for something to be understood by something else, that something else has to be able to embrace it, right? How can the mind embrace itself? It should be bigger than itself, and then that's an impossibility. So in some ways, I believe that mind cannot fully, truly understand itself ever, in some ways, yeah? It's like the most incredible instrument in the universe, right? Like the most evolved, complex thing there is. And so, yeah, we use diagrams, we use drawings. I draw a lot, and I do many of these diagrams to try to explore it in some way. But today's video is not going to go into the Minds course, by the way. Today is more informal, and as I said, feel free to suggest any other topic. Do ask any question. I am here for you and for us to be together, to create Sangat. And so I'm available for anything, chanting mantras, meditating, breathing, pranayams, whatever. And but yeah, let's read this Kabir on Buddhi. So I wrote this. Kabir speaks of Buddhi as something that is obtained. How about we try to read it in Gurmukhi? My pronunciation in Gurmukhi is not really good, but I can make an effort, and if it's not perfect, I hope the Gurus forgive us, yeah, for the errors in pronunciation. Gori Kabirji, Avarmui, Kya Sokarije, Tu Kije, Juapana Jije, Menamaru Maribo Sansara, Ab mohe milyo hai jiyavan hara raha. Eya dehi paramala mahakanda, tasuk bisara paramananda, paramananda. Koata ek pancha panihari, tutti laj bare matahari. Kahu Kabir ek buddhi bichare, na ah koata na panihare. Kahu Kabir ek buddhi bichare, na ukutta na panihare. Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh. I like to read it in the original because of what we were talking during the mantra course. If some of you may have read that and remember how when the tongue touches the upper palate, pronouncing the words the same way they were pronounced originally in Sanskrit or Gurmukhi, then there is a magical thing that happens in the brain, something that we call the nat yoga or nat science of Shabad Guru, the quantum technology of Shabad Guru. Yeah, it's sometimes used different words. Basically, there is some number of meridians in the upper palate, and when the tongue touches them, it stimulates the brain in a very particular way. So I have some videos on this if anybody is interested, but that's why I'm reading it first in Gurmukhi to create that effect. But let's see what it says. Why do you cry and mourn when another person dies? Do so only if you yourself are to live. I shall not die as the rest of the world dies. For now I have met the life-giving Lord. Well, the word Lord is kind of like an added translation because in the original Gurmukhi, I don't think any of these words means Lord, like in the male version of God, particularly. But let's say Lord or the Creator or God or whatever term we want to use. People anoint their bodies with fragrant oils, and in that pleasure they forget the supreme bliss. There is one well and 5 water carriers. Even though the rope is broken, the fools continue trying to draw water. Says Kabir that through contemplation I have obtained this one understanding. There is no well and no water carrier. So it's very interesting how you may often find like very serious yogis talking about anything, and then when they get realized or when they get enlightened, suddenly they become very, very poetic, yeah? And some other teachers are just poetic all around, yeah? Kabir is always poetic. But there is a lot Kabir is actually quite explicit in his yogic approach to his poems. Sorry, let me just lower the brightness a little bit. I feel I'm too white. There, a little bit better. So how about we try to reflect upon what he's saying. 1 second. Let me just see if I have 1 second. I think I want to check. 1 second. So I'm trying to check this reference for the 5 water carriers that Kabir is doing. And it's very interesting. This is something that we often find in the teachings of this in Sikh Dharma. And it's referring to the 5 thieves, sometimes called 5 thieves, 5 evils. Okay, here we go. Okay, I thought I had I don't know what I got. I'm going to show something on the screen, but I didn't write this particularly. This is something that I got. I think it's from the website Sikh Dharma. The 5 water carriers, yeah? So as in the 5 mastermind games to cross through inner mind. Sorry. Okay, let's finish this. Okay. So they're blocking the ascension from the first to the second chakra, the second to the third. And sometimes they are called Panch Chor or Panch Jana, Panch Dut. So this is like 5 companions, 5 evils, 5 thieves, 5 passions, or simply the mind's inner garbage. Lust, anger, greed, attachment, and pride. And here we have Kabir talking about the 5 bodily senses, which get trapped in these 5 water carriers. So I'm not sure whether, when Kabir is talking here about the 5 water carriers, yeah, he's saying, let's repeat. Even though the rope is broken, the fools continue trying to draw water. There is one well and 5 water carriers. Now, these 5 water carriers is probably, he's referring to 2 things. One is the 5 senses, and trying to draw water from the 5 senses means like water is our nourishment, yeah? So it's trying to nourish ourselves through the senses, which is what we do mostly in our life. We are going out through the senses. And in fact, this is one of the main points that Patanjali makes when he talks about the path to samadhi. Pratyahara, Dharana Dina Samadhi. So Pratyahara is this drawing the senses inwards, right? So why do we draw the senses inwards? Because we're not going to find nourishment out there through these five senses, trying to draw out of some particular well outside. No, the well is inside, right? And when we are going outside through the five senses, we get lost and we lose energy. So that's why losing energy, this is why it's often called the five thieves as well. They steal our energy. But it's not just, when we talk about the five thieves, it's not just the five senses. There are five specific evils. Yeah, sometimes called five evils. And they are called Kam, Krot, Lop, Moh, and Ahankar. And they are these five that I just mentioned. That is, Kam would be let me just put it here very quickly. I don't know, maybe I did this in another video already. I may have already explored this in another video, but let's just do it like this. Gonna do a little drawing. Yeah. So again, we have our yogi and yogini from the front. And we have our 7 chakras. I don't have the perfect colors for that, but I will use this. And I have a purple here. So the 5 thieves are 5 mind games, 5 traps that catch us, and then we get lost in our path of spiritual ascension, let's say. And this path is going from one chakra to the next, and the thieves are, let's say, in the middle of these chakras. This understanding of the 5 thieves is something that I got from Shiv Charan Singh, and study it through the numbers helps a lot. It is like this, and then one big jump to the last one. And so here we find the first one, come. This is called lust. Come, or desire, yeah? Which is, by the way, one of the main traps that we can find if we read Buddhist texts. We're going to find that they talk a lot about there's suffering, and suffering is intimately linked to desire. We live in a state of ignorance trapped in these 3 things. In fact, the whole objective, we could say, in the Buddhist practices would be to reach nirvana. Nirvana being this freedom from this... nirvana means no air, no wind. Yeah, vana is, the root is like va, similar to air, kind of like vayus, like the word vayus, which are winds in the body. So without air, and it's making a reference to not having these airs of suffering and desire, yeah, and ignorance, which in Indian terms, because they are so connected, yeah, the Hinduistic and Buddhistic traditions. So from Hinduism comes this concept of avidya, of ignorance. And where does that avidya come from? How do we get lost into our ignorance? But into Buddhism, it would be like reaching nirvana would be to get rid of that avidya and the suffering and the desire. Now, desire would be linked to this lust. And so Kam is the first of these 5 traps, 5 thieves. Yeah, and they steal our energy, our prana, our physical prana that we have available for the awareness and consciousness. And rather than that, it goes through the 5 senses. It grabs our mind, and we go into these 5 ways. Yeah. So that's last. Kam, that's then is krot. I believe it's written like this. I'm doing it from memory because I wasn't expecting to talk about this. So If there is some misspelling, I apologize for that. I'm sure everybody, don't take anything I say, don't take it 100% always for granted. Just check your sources always, yeah? So krot is anger or fury, rage, yeah? So this anger, let me see, 1 second. I'm checking if it's translated and if I have a copy of how it's properly written exactly. I don't have it here. No, but it's okay. We will carry on like this. Okay, so I mean, lust and desire, we can probably identify how it's linked to the passage to the second chakra, yeah? Second chakra linked to the sexual energy. It's common to see how it's connected in that way. Now coming to the third chakra, which is the fire, we can see how krot can be like anger, how can be a challenge in this transition. Kam krot lob. Lob or lob? I'm not sure. I think it may have an H afterwards. And this is greed. So the transition to the fourth chakra, the thing is the fourth chakra is very associated to something that comes out of your heart, and out of your heart would be the desire to share something, to give something out, not just to be receiving, taking things for yourself, but actually doing things for others. So in this, you want to give out, share, do seva, and the opposite of that is wanting to take away, and greed, to want more. So that greed is the obstacle to get into this higher start. So what this is describing is like the lowest manifestations of the transition to these chakras, yeah? So the fourth chakra in the worst way, like let's say. So this is not letting us go higher. And as you are cleaning this aspect, this thief, then you can raise the consciousness to the second chakra, and the first chakra is purified, and then you can receive the virtues of the first chakra, meaning stability and strength and stillness and all those beautiful things. Same with the second chakra. As you purify that last, and we are coming and purifying the krot, then we can go into the third and receive all the beautiful things from the second chakra, which is not just sexual passion, but it's actual passion, being passionate and being creative, yeah, and being feeling nourished and healthy emotions and all that. So as we are moving up, we are clearing up the chakras and we are obtaining their blessings, let's say. So greed is the thing that is an obstacle to receive the blessings from the third into the fourth chakra. And as we go higher, then we go into the fifth chakra, Kam krot lob moh. So this moh is referring to, well, let's say you desire something, right? And if you don't get it, you're gonna get angry, right? And then, but if you get it, you're gonna want more. And no matter what you get, you're gonna get more. And the more you get, now you don't wanna let go of it. So you get really attached to it. So moh is linked to attachment. Make sense? Yeah. So if in the fourth chakra, the willingness is to give out, in the transition into it, the obstacle is greed. But now that you have it, it's like you don't want to let go of it. So you're grabbing it, and you're attached to this. Yeah. And finally, the last of the five thieves is ahankar. Now it's worth talking about ahankar is pride. Now it's worth talking about this because just in the last video I was doing on the mind, I was talking about ahankar as this function of the mind, which is the I amness, which is often linked to the ego, yeah, because it's what I want and what I desire, what I like and what I dislike. So it's good to explore that ahankar, this is a term that is often used also in this other way when we are talking about the five thieves. So ahankar would be the pride. And this is like the very last obstacle, because this is when we are like, look, it's in the head, right? It's up here. So it's like we are lifting the head and feeling superior, feeling above somebody else. And it's the last one because you could even be working on your lust and your anger, and then you can be proud that you are not angry anymore, right? You can be proud that you are sharing with others. You can be proud to be humble. You can be proud to be anything else, right? Which is kind of like paradoxical. But yeah, that ahankar is the obstacle to get to the top. So these are the 5 thieves. These are the 5 water carriers. So let's read what Kabir was saying before. Here. So why do you cry and mourn when another person dies? Do so only if you yourself are to live. I shall not die as the rest of the world dies, for now I have met the life-giving Lord. So there is one aspect, which is when somebody has reached self-realization, when somebody has been freed from the cycle of birth and rebirth. That's samsara, by the way. That's what's called samsara. And look, that's the word actually that he uses. Meno maru maribo samsara. And actually, I think this translation is not 100% yogic. I mean, this is probably just like a good translation from Gurumukhi, but not a yogic one, let's say. Excuse me. Because samsara has a very specific concept related in yoga, which is this cycle of birth and rebirth. And we come here one life, and then we have to come back, and we have some karma that we have to complete. And because we haven't completed the karma, we have to come back to life. And that's what creates the cycle of birth and rebirth, the cycle of transmigration. Now, when somebody is freed from their karma, somebody who reaches the state that Kabir is defining, when you clean yourself of all karmas, you don't have to reincarnate. Therefore, you're in some way, you are not even alive, you're not dead. It's called Jivan Mukta. Jivan means soul, Mukta is liberated. So when a soul is liberated, a Jivan Mukti is somebody who is dead while alive. So they are not going to be subjected to death in the same way, that others will. So that's what he's saying, Why do you cry? He says, I shall not die, right? He's saying, let me be freed from my karma. I don't know why this phrase is appearing there. Oops. Maybe because this is not... Oh, there we go. I think that's better. So... people anoint their bodies with fragrant oils. Thank you, Lalita, Satnam. Thanks for subscribing. Hello, Satnamji. Gabriela, hello. So people anoint their bodies with fragrant oils, and in that pleasure they forget the supreme bliss. There is one well and 5 water carriers. Even though the rope is broken, the fools continue trying to draw water. So look at that. There is one well, 5 water carriers. 5 water carriers. So this is what he's talking about, these 5 evils. These 5 evils or 5 thieves. But I think he's also referring to the 5 senses. And it's probably through the 5 senses that we go out into the world. And we could associate it. Lust would be coming into the water element. So that would be linked to the taste. And anger would be linked to the fire element and air. So this is kind of connected in that way. And he's saying, there is one well, 5 water carriers, and the rope is broken, the rope to take out water. But the fools continue trying to draw water from it. Says Kabir, that through contemplation I have to obtain this one understanding, that there is no well and there is no water carrier. So it's like, don't go outside and don't lose the energy through these 5 senses going out. And when you go out, you get lost into the world, and then you are into Kam, Krot, Lob, Moha, Hankar, these 5 evils, and you get lost in there. And very interesting. But look, this is the place where he uses the word buddhi. This one understanding. Actually, is more than understanding. Buddhi is more like awakening, yeah? The awakened one. So this is my awakening. This is what I have received. I have obtained through contemplation, I obtained this buddhi, yeah? So he's saying that buddhi kind of descends upon us, which makes sense because remember this drawing that I did the other day? No, this drawing, yeah? So we have here the buddhi on the top. And buddhi is like something that is descending upon us. And here, this is something that we are going into the outside to look for something. Chitta is our memory bank and other things, but it's like going into the inside. Ahankara is the little voice behind it. It's like the little devil in the shoulder, if you wish. So that's right here. And buddhi is up top. So buddhi is kind of, this is descending upon me. And so interesting that sometimes we can find this in the teachings. Like, I think even, like Muslims say, may peace descend upon you. So it's like peace is descending upon us. Buddhi descends upon us. Compassion descends upon us. Grace comes upon us. All these higher virtues, they are received from above. They are a grace. They are something that flows through the channel, this higher channel, right, and comes into us. If we are graced with it, it's different from other virtues which we can develop. We can bring ourselves. Like humility is something that we have to bring ourselves. Like our loyalty, our devotion, that's something that we can bring ourselves. But wisdom, peace, compassion, grace, mercy, these are things that we receive from above. And we have to be open to receive those things. So those are qualities that are high qualities and we can call upon them. So there's an interesting differentiation between those things. Let's read another thing from Kabir since we are reading him today. This is Kabir on the mind. Ekonkar Satguru Prasad Sukha Managata Dukha Age Ave So Sukha Hamahu Na Mangya Bhave Bhikhya Ajaha Sudatu Sukha Asam Kesa Hoi He Raja Rama Nivasa Raha Es Sukha Te Siva Braham Dharana So Sukha Hamahu Sach Karajana Sanakadika Narada Munasekha Tin Bin Tan Mahimana Nahi Pika Es Manako Koi Kojaho Bayem Tana Chutta Manakaha Samayem Guru Parasad Jedu Namana Bhagad Ke Prem En Hi He Janan Esman Ko Nahi Avana Jana Jiska Bharam Gaya Tin Sacha Pachana Esman Kurupa Narekya Kayam Hukama Hai Hoya Hukama Buje Samayam Esamanaka Kwe Jana Beum Ehmana Lin Be Sukadum Jiu Eka Ara Sagal Sarira Esaman Kuravrahe Kabira Jiu Eka Ara Sagal Sarira Esaman Kuravrahe Kabira. Waheguru, my pronunciation is really not good. I'm trying to read this thing, but it's sometimes they use strange symbols in the transliterations, and it would be more appropriate to read the original, but I'm not very quick. I'm not very good at reading Gurumukhi. So I make many mistakes. Waheguru. Ekonkar Sataguru Prasad, there's one God, and that's truth is its identity by the will of the Guru, like a gift from the Guru, by the grace of the Guru. Suk Mangat Duk Age Ave. People beg for pleasure, but pain comes instead. Well, again, we have one of these translations that is quite it's interesting, but also misses some things. Look, this mangat, look, here we have man, like manas, like the mind, yeah? And we have the polarity of suk and duk. Duk is the pain or suffering, and suk is like peace, or being satisfied and peaceful. So, suk mangat, duk ave, ave. So one begs for that. One begs for this peace, or here it's called like pleasure, but it's also kind of like more like peace and contentment more than pleasure. Because pleasure, we usually attribute this word to temporal pleasure. And actually, suk is more like peace, and that could be more long-lasting. And we beg for it. Interesting that the word for begging is associated to the mind, but we actually find suffering. Duk age ave. So sukhamau namang mangya pave. Again, man. Yeah, there is again this man root here, linked to the mind. So I would rather not beg for that pleasure, for that peace, let's say. Bikya aja surat suks asa. People are involved in corruption, but still they hope for pleasure. But surat, I think surat is linked to consciousness. So I wonder how is this? I don't understand every word. I understand very, very few words actually. So I'm not sure what's the surat in this. Are involved in corruption, but they hope for pleasure. Maybe they put suk in their surat, so they try to, in their consciousness, they try to put their consciousness aligned to the peace, maybe. How will they find their home in the sovereign Lord King? Pause. Even Shiva and Brahma are afraid of this pleasure. But I have judged that pleasure to be true. Again, this pleasure is referring to this peace, not temporal pleasure, yeah? Even sages like Nanak and Narad and the thousand-headed serpent did not see the mind within the body. Anyone can search for this mind, O siblings of destiny. When it escapes from the body, where does the mind go? By Guru's grace, Jaidev and Namdev come to know this through loving devotional worship of the Lord. This mind does not come or go. One whose doubt is dispelled knows the truth. Such being the truth, like Sat or Sach is the same. This mind has no form or outline. Rup, so yeah, rup, no form. It's interesting, because the mind wants to give form to everything. The mind puts everything into little boxes. Yeah, it's always giving shape, giving form to things. By God's command it was created, understanding God's command it will be absorbed into Him again. Does anyone know the secret of this mind? This mind shall merge into the Creator, the giver of peace and pleasure. There is one soul, and it pervades all bodies. Ji being the soul, yeah, Jio. Ek ar sagal sarira. So it pervades all the bodies, and Kabir dwells upon this mind. Upon the mind that is going to merge, yeah? The purified mind that is aligned with this one soul. Yeah? It's an enlightened man. All right. Okay, so we read a little bit of Kabir. Today, we may read some other texts like this. Kabir is very profound. You have to stop a little bit and read it slowly, but he is very profound when you read. He's sometimes very explicit about what to do, how to conquer the 5 evils, how to find this mind that is aligned with the soul. And he describes particular practice, yogic practices as well, even though he always uses this poetic form. But yeah, Saddam, how is everyone doing? Do you enjoy reading Kabir? Do you ever read Kabir or any of the gurus or any of the Shabbats from the saints? If so, which is your favorite? Do you have one that you can share here? Write it in the chat if you have something. So today I was reflecting upon this, how this. I was talking on the other day about Buddhi being two aspects. And I wanted to read this Kabir because it talks a little bit about Buddhi, how Buddhi descends. Now, there is these two aspects. One is the intellectual, analytical aspect to the mind. This is the, in our Western understanding, would be equivalent to the left hemisphere, logical and analytical and mathematical in some way, like this works in this way, and putting things into boxes, yeah? And that analytical, intellectual understanding, that often is translated intellect as Buddhi, but there is the other aspect, discernment and wisdom and making choices. That's so different. It's just as different as saying information and wisdom. It's as different as that. Satnam, GIY, hello, welcome to the stream. How are you? I hope you're well. To say that intellect and discernment is the same is really, really, they're far away things. Look, information and wisdom. You can grab as much information as you want. You can accumulate as much as you want. You can collect it and, grab volumes and volumes and volumes of information. Traditionally, it would be you could fill your library with books. Nowadays, all the information of the world is available at your fingertips with one click away. We are really, really close to that. And yet, does that make us any wiser? And if it doesn't necessarily, what is wisdom? Let's open the question. Maybe somebody in the chat will want to say, what is wisdom for you? How do you find wisdom? What is your reflections upon wisdom? How do you differentiate wisdom from knowledge and wisdom from, accumulation of information? Because if wisdom was just somebody who knows a lot, then we would say that Google is very wise, right? But is it wise? And even ChatGPT, right? I'm thinking now, artificial intelligence now. ChatGPT has all accumulated knowledge of everything that was written by humans, and it has created a model of human understanding. And I would say that model includes both wisdom and ignorance, because humans are wise and ignorant. So everything that we have written, both ignorant and wise, has been read and has been modeled. But does that make ChatGPT wise? No, I would say it makes both. And in fact, you can hear sometimes it makes mistakes. And that's why they are working on alignment and they are working on giving it feedback, to try to correct itself and give the right answer. But what is the difference? So I'm asking, if you are here, you're present, you're online, and you have a minute and you want to write in the chat, what is wisdom for you? What do you understand wisdom? How is that different from accumulating understanding? I want to understand better Buddhi. I want to reflect more upon Buddhi. And I feel that a big part of this is understanding discernment. And I think discernment plays a key role here, because there is no discernment when you click one button and you receive 12 billion pages talking about any topic that you're asking about. There is no discernment there. There's just an accumulation of information. So let's say GIY, to know how and when to apply the wisdom, using discernment gained through self-knowledge and life experience, with choice to polarize negative or positive. This is important. Good. I will ask you to expand a little bit on the last bit. With choice to polarize negative or positive. You mean to decide whether something is positive or negative? Is that it? Or is there something else? And I will comment on the first part while you elaborate on the second part. How and when to apply the wisdom? What would be to apply the wisdom? And I understand that you are saying this is using discernment, getting through self-knowledge and life experience. Okay, great. So I think life experience, there is no doubt about life experience because I have two little daughters, right? And sometimes they say something really wise. But I don't think they know that what they said is really, really wise. This is something they just take for granted. And they will say it amidst other things which are not so wise. And that's because they are children and they are just learning, they are just beginning, their life experience is still very short, right? So life experience is certainly a necessary ingredient, is not a guarantee. So not all people are wise. I think we all know this, right? There's some very grumpy grandfathers and grandmothers who are just not wise, let's say. However, if anybody has reached wisdom, they must have gone through some experience. So it is probably easier to go finding wisdom in a house filled with older people. And, if in the tribes, traditionally, there would be the elders, right? It would be easier to find wisdom amongst the elders than finding wisdom amongst the youngsters. And it's interesting, in some cultures, the young kid would be considered a kid until they would go through some rite of passage, and then eventually they are adults. And when they are adults, they would be allowed into the main tent where the big decisions would be made, right? And then they would express their voice. And sometimes their voice would be the voice that everybody would agree to, and they would make decisions based upon that. And, they could be as young as maybe 16, but if they are considered adults and they have they have this right to voice their opinions, and maybe that's the wise opinion, right? But often the elders would be maybe silent because, the one who knows doesn't speak and the one who speaks doesn't know often. But when they would speak, everybody would listen because often there is wisdom in the elders, right? So life experience is certainly a necessary ingredient for that. I would agree to that. Sometimes the most wise thing is to say nothing. It would cause more negative than positive polarization beyond the present moment. Oh, I see. So you're referring exactly to that. That's why the wise do not speak when the ignorant do, right? So yes, excellent. So we are linked to that, yeah?